Florence and I met when we both marched in the Drum and Bugle Corps in the early 1970s.
One day my husband Alan came home and decided we should do this, and I had volunteered 1 day a week, which has now turned into my entire life.
So in 1977 we decided to try and start our own group.
And we went for quite a few years as a drum corps, and then we started the Winter Guard program. From there, due to finances, we decided it'd be easier in BC to make it into a marching band. And it was very successful as a marching band. We did it for numerous years, and due to cutbacks on funding, we just could not afford it any longer. So now we have just the color guard portion of what used to be the drum corps, as well as a dance studio, which we've started, which has been very successful.
My journey began probably in the early 80s when both my daughters joined the organization, two girls.
I've been with Pacificaires since 1991. I was involved with both my daughters, but basically we're in Pacificaires somewhere between 10 to 12 years. And that's been about 6 years ago since the last one aged out.
I got involved in 1992 with Color Guard. Started off with my oldest daughter, and then my youngest daughter joined a year later. And they've aged out, and we're still here.
I've been involved with Pacificaires since 1991. We became involved through a friend of my daughter at school. I got very involved and I stayed very involved, and now I don't have kids in there. I have grandchildren in there, and I'm still involved.
I marched for 17 years. I've been involved in Pacificaires since I was born, basically going on the trips in my mom's stomach and then on the bus after that forever.
Ms. Donna and I have 4 daughters in Color Guard.
2 daughters. Both were initially in the Guard, and my second time around, my oldest daughter, Katie, came back as one of the instructors in the dance program.
I've gone through so many different generations. I went into the A Guard when I was 13, and I was one of the youngest. So there's a whole bunch of older people. That's when Cheryl was in the A Guard, and then they kind of aged out. People started coming in. Tila came in, so we went through that era, and then Cheryl and them all aged out, and then I became one of the oldest, and then I transitioned into somewhat of an instructor this year. That was hard.
Well, this is my 21st year with the organization, and I've marched, what have I been instructing for 4 years now? I've been doing it my whole life, right? Coming on these trips, and it doesn't feel normal to not do it, really.
The first years my daughters started, we didn't buy costumes. We always had a camp. We would get parents together, and we would have a sewing bee where we would sew the costumes for the girls. It was a great day to get together and meet with other parents, socialize with other parents, and just have a good time.
It was very different than now, very different. I mean, we were talking about it on the bus on the way here. We remember sleeping in the gyms instead of hotels, and having chaperones come around with, the flashlights and saying, "Hey, everybody go to sleep." And then if you weren't, they'd pull your sleeping bag into the middle of the gym. That was fun. And then we'd have a smorgasbord out in front of the bus instead of restaurants, and the chaperones would make all your lunches.
Back then, the circuit would have shows up in Canada, so we'd go up to BC to do Color Guard shows up there, and they'd come down here.
Really enjoy the bus rides.
We've had the bus for 10 years anyway, and when we bought the bus it was at least 20 years old. So we got good service life out of it. We basically used it until it couldn't be used anymore. And so it just aged out like a lot of the others of us.
We used to have 3 buses, an equipment truck, a 5-ton equipment truck, and it was the Color Guard, and there was a music portion of the organization, a marching band and performing band. And that's how we got involved with it, was actually traveling down with about 140, 150 kids to California one summer.
I first saw the Pacificaires in probably 1991 or 1992, and as a color guard performer and student myself, I was always really amazed with them because of their technical proficiency. They were so exciting and so clean to watch, and fantastic competitors.
It's really the consistency that sets them apart, from lots of other groups. I mean, there have been quite a few independent groups come and go during the time that Pacificaires have really held steady.
The part that's always amazed me and still amazes everyone around here locally is how they just keep coming up with such great kids. And in a way we can see it because we're going to see their little mini guard, the little kids who are already great performers. And that's where that kind of starts. And like I said, there have been years when they've shown up with 3 groups, entered in 3 different classifications, and they've won all 3 classifications. They'll just clean sweep it.
It wasn't until I got quite a bit older that I realized what a strong, stable organization was behind those color guards that I saw as a performer and a kid. And that's really the impressive part to me, as I'm now a color guard director of my own. Just seeing how well organized they are and the details that are put into everything they do, and the discipline and the longevity of the organization and their instructional staff and their performing members. They all have created just a really fantastic approach to doing competitive color guard.
You know, Pacificaires has been the group that's been doing color guard in the Northwest the longest.
That's over 30 years. You get to meet a lot of people.
The friendships and the bonds that you have never end.
Today, there's still people that are friends in my life that I knew through the activity.
You know, you watch kids come and go, they have their little generations, you know, 10 years, you have the new ones.
Many of the kids that were involved over the years that we all know, and a lot of us had jobs and income and we could take care of our children, but there's a lot of that came from broken homes or single parent families. But within our organization, they had a family, they had a place to belong, they had people that cared about them, and they had something to strive for and to work for. And even now, a lot of those individuals, their children are now in the organization because they believe and they've had something that they could hold on to and grasp. And I think it's indicative of how this organization has gone over the years.
I think once you're involved with Pacificaires, you will always look at them as part of your extended family.
In the end, I feel like all the kids are our kids. It's not just the pride of my own children and what they're doing, but as a group. I always get all teary-eyed when I say that, but they're a group. They're a very close-knit group.
It's all about family and enjoying who you're with.
The members that you know, marched with you years ago, and now they've got their kids involved. It's kind of special. It's really neat.
Pacificaires is a wonderful organization to keep the kids involved, focused, motivated to go to work as a team.
You know, one thing that, as far as I was concerned, when my daughters were involved with Pacificaires, the discipline that was expected of them, the commitment that was expected of them, just led them to do their homework at times when they had time, when it didn't conflict with color guard practices. It led them all, basically both completed university and ended up getting their degrees and are now got good character, love to travel, you know, are really enjoying a nice life.
Everyone wants the same thing. We all want to do good, have fun, feel like we had our best show, our best season.
Part of what Pacificaires means to me is the time and effort they spend with our kids, the actual emotional growth that they give our kids. My daughters, when they started, we had just come from a broken home. I had just left, and they weren't very secure in their own beings, but now they do awesome. And this is what the Guard has done for them. This is what I feel emotional growth they've given them, and the security in their own being, and the confidence in what they can do, both as people and as dancers.
Over the years, I have found putting my children in there, Pacificaires has really taught them to be independent, to be responsible for themselves, and it's broken them out into a whole new world.
If we go out and perform our best, it feels so good when we come off.
No matter what place you come in.
Yeah. Exactly.
As Pacificaires get better, it leads us to chase them and we have to chase them faster, so it turns us into being better competitors as well. So I really appreciate that out of their whole organization.
As long as you and your instructors know that's the best show you could have done that day, and you tried your hardest, that's the real reward. Yeah.
Yeah, like when you come off the floor and you see everyone's like happy and they had an awesome show, then like
that
it doesn't
that
matter.
really makes you so much better than getting a score. If we're all like, yeah, good show.
That's like when you really are a group.
Yeah.
And that's probably the greatest thing about all this is the camaraderie and watching young people grow.
Florence has put a lot of time and effort into this organization, and I greatly appreciate everything she has done for the organization, and Alan as well. Just a lot of pressure for both of them.
We're not really flooded with a lot of volunteers that are willing to take our jobs away from us, kind of thing. But you know, we enjoy it.
Yeah. Keeps you young. Keeps you young.
We're involved with young people and of all ages, and it's just so warming to see the kids grow and develop and turn into good citizens in society, and that will give back later in life.
Well, my daughter, she was in her own little bubble, and I was thinking, I don't know how she's ever going to perform with Pacificaires. She is so to herself. Over the years, she's opened up so much that she would come home and says, Mom, I love being in the spotlight. And this was just so not my daughter to be in the spotlight. So Pacificaires has changed her. She's now in her 20s, and she just told me recently, she says, you know, Mom, if I could still somehow be part, I would probably do something for someone to encourage them to stay with Pacificaires.
Regret quitting, yeah, very much so. It's one thing I wish I stuck with, right up until the end, but I didn't.
Canadian girls go south, and our competitors know when we're in town. And we were one of the top teams to be reckoned with all the time. And it's because of hard work of the individuals and all the staff too. It's a big family, and everybody really digs in for it.
Still plan on keeping attendance with and participating with Pacificaires for at least another 5 or 6 years anyway. But it's getting harder every year. So.
The artistry that they do is phenomenal. So yeah, I just love it, and I continue to be part of it.
I just find it very exciting. I'm addicted to it.
We've been doing this for over 30 years now, and probably never ever thought that we would be doing it this long.
I can say that I do enjoy it, but it has been a long haul,
When I think back over the last 31 years, I guess we've been doing this, we've probably had close to 2,500 to 3,000 members within our program. So those are a lot of kids. I guess that's why we do it. Sometimes we ask ourselves that same question: why are we doing this? But it just comes back to it becomes part of your life, and if you didn't have it, what else would you do?
Make Florence happy.